I'm not even going to bury the lead here. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. Easily top 10 of the year so far. Perhaps the best one so far.
Le bonheur, c'est de continuer à désirer ce que l'on n'a déjà, mais vous ne vous êtes jamais eu. Cet instant, le meilleur moment de la journée.
And today we have The Taste of Things. Now, real talk, this one's a bit of a technicality, because technically this film did come out in 2023 last year. In terms of award circuit, look, we're far enough into 2024 now where this film didn't hit our theaters until, like, what is this? We're in February right now, so I'm pretty sure I call this a 2024 release, even if the Oscars don't end up considering it as part of this year's circuit. For me, this is a 2024 release and very, very easily top 10 already for the year. So I'm going to do what I always do in my reviews, but I'm only going to address this once in this review because there have been a couple recent call-outs in the way that I handle this. So it is what it is. You're not going to make everybody happy. I get that. The way that I do these things, contrary to apparently some people's belief, there's a modicum of research done in terms of I look up who the director is, what they've done. Sometimes, depending on how many actors there are, I look into the actors, kind of their filmography. If I'm familiar, I might delve more into it. If I'm not going to stand here, lie to you, and claim that I am. And yes, I know, I go by MovieMan. I like the movies, but I'll let you in a little secret. I ain't seen all of them. I know, a shocker, right? There's some movies out there that I haven't watched yet. I'm not gonna say, oh, here's what the director's done, and oh, I totally know what that is. Like, no, I'm like with this director right now. I'm gonna tell you what some of the stuff that they've done. I'm not familiar with it, but if this film has any basis to go by, I'm probably gonna go and visit those films. The one fair call out is pronunciation. I've butchered plenty of names in my past, and people have recently gotten upset about it, understandably so. So I will try to do more due diligence in terms of the correct pronunciation, at least, of these wonderful people that have helped to make, direct, or act in these films. Taste of Things is directed by a Tran Anh Huynh, Vietnamese-French film director and screenwriter. So, in terms of previous filmography, I am unfamiliar with them, but now that I've heard about them, boy, I sure would like to be. In total, only about 9 official films throughout the years, but they seem to be more of a quality over quantity type of deal. They've been directing since '89. The last thing they did, Eternity, back in 2016, as well as, and I'm actually a bit curious about this one, they did a Norwegian Wood, what I assume is an adaptation, because Norwegian Wood is the name of a book by one of my favorite authors, Haruki Murakami. It's not even that long of a book, so I'd love to see how they adapted the source material for that into a film. And then, before we get into the meat of this, pun intended, big shout out to our 2 leading stars of this film. Benoit Magimel, opposite Juliette Binoche. I mean, I'll get to them in a moment, but I killed it. We started seeing this trailer in our local art house cinema early on in the year. There was intrigue via food and romance, and just the aesthetic seemed pleasant, and they had a lot of those, you know, a reviewer goes and sees it and gives them like a tagline, like a quote they can use for the film, and it was saying, oh, every frame you can practically taste it when they're cooking food, and this is just there's so much substance in this film, and it almost might not have any other equal. It's a cinematic, like, achievement. At first, I'll admit, I was a bit skeptical. It looked good, it looked enticing, but before I went to see it, I was thinking, well, surely not this monumental. I can't imagine this being so good. Boy, was I wrong. It's one of those few films I walk out of and I just think immediately, like, no notes for this masterpiece of a film. Oh my god, was this great. It's a beautiful, emotional, cinematic masterpiece. And not even with any like major technical advancements or achievements or any sort of big newfangled, it's the simplicity of it and the quality and care that went into how this film was made that is what propels it forward so much. The direction of it is simple and yet masterful, just in terms of camera work. There's nothing too crazy going on. Oftentimes it's just, you know, still shots or some like pans in a kitchen or just following these characters as they go about their lives. So much of this film is just our main characters cooking. I'm just spewing through the pros of the film before we get to the, oh wait, there aren't any cons, lol. It's amazing how this film not only has its characters communicate via basic dialogue and, you know, their own interactions, but even through food as they cook in the kitchen and the way they work with each other and how they communicate with each other or their helpers in the kitchen via just how they prepare the food and what they're trusting their partner with and the type of food they make and the care that goes into it. So much is said without things actually being said, but through actions and through body language and facial expressions. I'm sure I'm sounding all over the place. And you have that in conjunction with the cinematography and the color palettes in this film. This movie feels warm and inviting and just talk about food porn, right? If you like watching people cook, I could watch these two characters cook like all day for hours and hours. Color schemes in this film, whether you're out like the light pouring into the kitchen or when you're outside in the bright spring day, or even if there's something sadder going on, how it's the lack of color and light, just the lighting in this film tells a story, and just the mood in the kitchen and helps set up this house and the characters and their emotions. It all works so well in tandem with each other. The color correction is great. The cinematography is perfect. The direction is again, I will keep saying this, but no notes. And speaking of that, if we're on also cooking and how it looks and how it feels, and you can, as the reviewer said, you can practically taste every frame. This food is delicious and made with such love and care, with vegetables from the garden. And I know what you're thinking already. Well, gee, is this just like a movie just about people cooking? Yes, but actually no. But also yes. But it's kind of hard to explain. Food is the conduit. But speaking of all that, the sound, oh my god, the Foley work with sound in this movie, again, masterful. In the kitchen, the tiniest, like dropping something in the water and then just like layering something on another, and you just hear like the little, or just the, as they're cooking and the searing and the boiling and the chopping and it's just all so satisfying, at least for someone like me, the serotonin you get from watching and hearing them cook all this. But again, I feel like I'm all over the place here. This all is still, although a lot of it is watching people cook food, and it's very much the joy of cooking, it's tied into the relationship of our main characters and kind of how they feel about each other, and how one's pining after the other one, and the other one clearly has a bond but is not quite sure if they can commit all the way in that sense. I'm not going past what the trailers themselves have mentioned, but just their relationship and their relationship alongside other friends or people that are also like in their circle, or maybe like a little bit outside the circle. But I want to try to keep it vague because I want you to do what I did and watch the trailer, have that tapped in your mind, sure, then go into the movie, and I guarantee you're still going to go on quite a ride, a bit of an experience for sure. I already kind of said it, but I'm just, again, going through the notes and all that. What I love about this film as well is so much is said through just the cooking and how they cook for each other, or the body language and in the eyes and face. It's a masterclass in acting. There's not a whole lot said. There's dialogue, but this film doesn't lean on it. Our characters, most of the film, aren't speaking, but are the non-verbal communication. And yet, when they do speak, the writing in this film, it's like poets. It's great. It's raw. It's emotional. It cuts straight to the point, but at the same time has layers and complexity to it, very similar to the dishes they are preparing. It works so well on both ways. Like when they're not talking, it's so clear and to see and hear. And then when they are talking, it's even more beautiful. And it's a beautiful story, honestly. Again, I shall not dive into details about what transpires in said story, but I will say that it's just a solid story. One of the best I've seen so far this year. We're not even in March yet. I've seen, I've seen 30 films. I've seen like 30 films already this year, in theaters anyway, just in theaters. But I will say, out of all the films that I've seen in theaters so far this year, this may very well be the best narrative, the best story that I've seen so far. So if that tells you anything. I feel like I'm on the verge, the danger of saying too much, and I'm gonna reel myself back in and hopefully I've said enough. But at the end of the day, The Taste of Things is a movie that I consider a 2024 release. I think it might still be playing in theaters. If it is, go catch it. It's 100% worth your time. See it on the biggest screen possible. Not because it's a big Hollywood visual spectacle, blockbuster, Deadpool, whatever, but because it's just such a well-made film. I love what this director did with this. I love what the actors did in it. I would love to go back and check out more of this director's body of work. You just have a film like this and you focus on making sure the foundation and the building blocks of it are all just done well. And in this case, directing, cinematography, sound design, acting, the food, the narrative, the story, all those core elements were worked on and were just polished to these perfect marble little statues, and it comes across phenomenally well in this film. Now, I mean, some of you might not like it, and I get that. You might consider it a bit of a slower movie. I wouldn't consider it a slow burn. The movie does move, but I mean, you're just moving in the kitchen and around this house, and then you might go to another location here or there. Laughs will be had, maybe a tear or two will be shed, but this movie doesn't do anything too crazy. But what it does do, I think, is done so well and has accomplished so well. So if you're in for just a nice sit in, enjoy, get cozy by the fire type of movie, and then just a movie just to be watched. I don't know how else to put it. For all those reasons and more, you know exactly where this is going. But The Taste of Things so far might be my favorite film of the year, and hands down would get a solid 5 out of 5. I give The Taste of Things a rock solid 5 out of 5. I have no notes. I don't think this movie did anything wrong. I'm sure some critics out there might agree. The last I checked, I'm pretty sure we're all on board with this film, but it's just a beautiful film. I struggle to put into any more words other than what I've put it into so far, but highly recommend it. Very much worth a watch. If our tastes align, I think you're gonna jive, but if not, then, you know, I can understand. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching. For all the people that have still been supportive and positive, I appreciate it. For those that have notes, I also appreciate it. You're still offering comments and discourse. I mean, I am making this content not only for myself, but mostly for everybody else. I'm trying to share my love of cinema and film and that passion with other people. So I know I'm not going to always make everybody happy, completely understandable, but hopefully we shall have a good symbiotic relationship going forward. Stay tuned for the next episode of whatever I review. Allons-y, travelers. I'll try to say it in French. Travelers. Travelers. Oh.